Letter from the Gantry.
Please forgive any self-indulgence here, but I've been coming to terms with how the last 50 years have flown by from December the 28th, 1974 to December the 28th, 2024. Both dates fell on a Saturday. On the former, my first television football commentary. And oddly, on the latter, no football at all in the upper echelons of the English game. For the record, I did find a match to watch. Raynes Park Vale against Hanworth Villa in the south central section of the Isthmian League. Vale run by the Gallagher family, of whom Atletico Madrid's Connor is the most renowned member. Also in attendance, an England player from the best part of 30 years ago, John Scales, who played in the Premier League for Wimbledon, Liverpool, Spurs and briefly for Ipswich, and prior to that was a member of the Dons squad which went all the way in the FA Cup in 1988. Our football pyramid is still a powerful attraction. As for commentating, I guess my Boxing Day broadcast for Premier League productions of Wolves' 2-0 win over Manchester United represents the anniversary, as it was the final game of my 50th year in the job. It was a tough one too. Present was the commentator's greatest enemy, fog. The gantry at Molineux is on the high side, so Dave Edwards, the former Wolves and Wales midfield player, and myself were above much of the mist and trying to peer through it. Only once in my half-century behind the microphone has a broadcast involving me been abandoned while the match was going on. It was in my least favourite ground of all time, Munich's Olympic Stadium, now happily the former home of Bayern. With the running track, the near touchline always seemed as far away as the far touchline in most other venues, and that was when the skies were clear. This was November 1982, Bayern versus Tottenham in the old European Cup Winners' Cup. Once our coverage had been stood down, I ended up going to the edge of the pitch just to check out what was happening. Bayern won 4-1, and there is some very blurry footage online to prove it. On Boxing Day, Dave and I were not quite so discomforted. We both spotted that Matheus Cunha scored directly from a corner. Then in the 8th minute of added time, Hwang Hee-chan, with Cunha's considerable help, wrapped it up for Wolves. My next game came on December the 29th, so in the pedantic manner of all commentators, it was technically the first match of my 51st year, though the fact 5-0 were on the final scoreline seemed appropriate. But again, pedantically, it was actually 0-5, as Liverpool rounded off their 2024 in fine style at West Ham. No fog, and no obscuring the enduring extraordinary talents of Mo Salah, and the calm hand on the tiller of Arne Slot. To go back to my beginnings, it was Southampton versus Sheffield Wednesday in the old second division, the Championship now. And the preparations of the commentators I was trying to join, John Watson and Barry Davis for the BBC, Brian Moore, Hugh Johns, Gerald Sinstadt and Jerry Harrison on ITV, seemed very straightforward now. Just one named substitute per side, and little secrecy about the lineups. Usually, you had to prepare the details on a total of just 24 players. For Wolves alone on Boxing Day, I had 30 players on my prep sheet. For United, 32, including Marcus Rashford, just in case. The only foreigners for Southampton in 1974 were 3 Scots, Jim Steele, Hugh Fisher and Jerry O'Brien. Sheffield Wednesday started with 10 Englishmen, plus a Welsh right-back, Peter Rodrigues, who within 18 months would be holding up the FA Cup at Wembley as captain of Southampton. Both managers, Laurie McMenemy and Steve Burtonshaw, were homegrown Englishmen. Wolves' starting 11 on Boxing Day had 7 players for whom Portuguese is their first language, 1 Spanish-speaking Uruguayan, 1 French, now an Algerian international, Ryan Ait-Nouri, the Norwegian, Jürgen Strand-Larsen, and the dead cert for the post-match interview, Matt Doherty, a rich Irish brogue, of course, to his native English tongue. United had the only 2 English starters, Harry Maguire and Kobbie Mainoo. The 2 head coaches, Vitor Pereira and Ruben Amorim, both recently arrived from Portugal, with 7 previous Premier League games between them. So in my 50 years, the game has gone from local to global, in players, coaches, and now owners/investors. I'm very proud that the game I've loved for over 70 years and followed professionally for 50 serves as a binding language in a very divided world. Football's not perfect, we all know that. But mostly, it's a considerable force for good. It provides rich entertainment almost every day of the year. It's a constant topic for conversation. At its best, it showcases the values of teamwork, effort, and determination. In my years, it's overcome the traumas of stadium tragedy, the real threat of hooliganism, and the major problem of a pandemic. Indeed, during the pandemic, it provided comfort in those isolating times. But just a final word of caution. Top football never stops needing nurturing and nourishing. The search for riches should never be at the expense of open competition. A sense of entitlement is an enemy, and the quest for financial gain should never be at the expense of a club's core support. Exploiting that loyalty would be a fatal error. Finally, a wide-ranging thank you to the thousands of people who've helped me along the way, in football, in television, and in life. These past 50 years have undoubtedly been a team effort, and I like to think I'm not done yet.